Hey there, Rappies. Rapper9198 here, and welcome to another edition of Ryan's Day Reading. So today, I'm going to be reading, again, from the book I'll Push You. Let's see, I'm going to be reading the whole second part of I'll Push You. So that'll be chapters 4, 5, and 6. So part 2 is this whole part 2 out of all the 3 parts in this book. So part 2 is called Preparations, which is them preparing for the 500-mile journey along the Camino de Santiago. So in the first part 1, which is part 1, which was titled Beginnings, we got kind of the whole, little bit of the backstory of Patrick and Justin and their friendship, and how Justin developed the neuromuscular disease that caused him to lose the use of his arms and legs. And so, and then it fast forwarded to Justin and Patrick in the present, or in this case in 2012. They're both married, and Patrick and his wife came out to visit Justin and his wife, and so Justin was watching a show, and he saw the whole pilgrimage of the Camino de Santiago, and then he asked Patrick if he could go with him and do that whole journey. And Patrick simply responded, "I'll push you." So now we're getting into the second part of the book, where they're going to start to prepare for the adventure that changed the course of their lives. So here's part 2, Preparations. And then we start that with chapter 4, titled Time Off. Okay, so we start with Patrick. So we're back in Patrick's perspective right now. June is a beautiful month in Meridian, Idaho. The sky is often bright blue, and the grass is brilliant green. Sprinklers run, flowers are in bloom, and folks spend many hours outdoors basking in the sun. Today is no exception. A light breeze counters the heat as my kids run through the playground of Kleiner Park. Some of my coworkers' children vie for a spot on the monkey bars, while others play a game of tag with my oldest daughter, Cambria. A lanky 8-year-old, her long blonde hair trails behind her as my 4-year-old son, Josh, struggles to match her long strides. Olivia, 3, is in my wife's arms. She has adjusted well to life in America since her adoption from China, but big crowds still make her nervous. Life in the Chinese orphanage wasn't easy, and Donna's arms are the one place she always feels safe. Donna makes small talk with a few new acquaintances as more people from my team at St. Luke's Hospital show up with their families. We've come for a break from the workday pressures and some well-earned leisure time at this late spring barbecue. My boss, Ed, arrives with his family, and I see him walking toward the covered park benches where a row of coolers and dishes full of food now sit. I have worked for Ed for the past 2 years, and he is no stranger to stories about my adventures with Justin. When I first met him, he had just taken over from a previous administrator, and I was approaching a week of vacation. Trying to get to know his new employees, Ed asked me what I had planned for my time off. I'm flying down to San Diego to spend the week with my best friend, Justin, to give his wife a break and help out. A break? He asked, curious. What are you helping out with exactly? They have 3 kids, I explained, and Justin is in a wheelchair. Like a manual wheelchair? No, a power wheelchair. He can't use his hands or legs. So you're going down to take care of your friend and the 3 kids while his wife's away? Yep. He seemed intrigued, so I told him the whole story of Justin's disease. Over the next 2 years, he inquired frequently about Justin and became very familiar with our relationship. When he sees me across the park, he makes eye contact and nods hello. The smell of ribs and pulled pork rises from the grill. As I walk over to check the progress of the meat, I noticed a young man in the distance in a wheelchair. It's been a little over a year since Justin first asked me about the trek through Spain. We've revisited the idea and talked about how it might come together. But the right time just hasn't revealed itself. Maybe there will never be a right time, just a right mindset. I look at the man in the wheelchair and think about my best friend. How often has Justin just pulled the trigger on what many would shy away from? Don't get me wrong, he isn't reckless. He plans out what needs to happen, but he's not the sort that focuses on how something will happen. He always starts with the why. If the why is not strong enough, the how will come together. Currently, Justin is 5,500 miles across the Atlantic Ocean in a medieval town in northwest Tuscany. He and Kirsten wanted their kids to experience the beautiful culture they'd embraced on their honeymoon many years before. So while I'm at this picnic, Justin and his family are living in Lucca, Italy. It took them a year of planning, selling off possessions, working extra hours, and renting out their home to make it happen. But their why was important enough to make the sacrifice. I walk to where my daughter is now pushing my son on the swings. Ed is standing close by, chatting with Becca, one of my good friends and coworkers. As their conversation comes to a close, I take the opportunity to bend Ed's ear. Ed, I have a quick question. Sure, he says, scanning the playground. What's up? I need 6 weeks off next summer, I say nonchalantly. Ed's head snaps to attention. All at once? He asks. Yep. His eyes narrow. That's going to be tough. What do you have planned? I begin to fill Ed in on the story behind the Camino de Santiago and Justin's desire to tackle the challenge this pilgrimage represents. As the words continue to come out of my mouth, I recognize the power that exists in speaking them out loud. Suddenly, this idea has a life it didn't have before. What was once simply an idea is now a possibility. As Ed listens intently, his expression begins to turn from concern and apprehension to excitement and joy, and he nods his head as he processes his response. When I finally stop talking, Ed looks me in the eye and, pointing his finger at my chest, says, I will do everything in my power to get you the time off, on one condition. What's that? I ask. Promise me you'll do everything in your power to document this journey on film. Confused and a bit blindsided, I respond, okay, why? Because, Ed states empathetically, sorry, to not document it would be selfish and irresponsible. There's too much hope in this to not share it. The world needs to know hope like this exists. I didn't see that coming. I've been so focused on what this trip would mean to Justin and me, it never occurred to me it might mean something to anyone else. And yet the look on Ed's face speaks volumes. Now, where are we going to get a film crew? As Ed turns his attention to his kids, I retreat to the picnic tables, sit down next to Donna, and take Olivia in my arms. I have the time off for Spain, I say. Stunned, Donna replies, "What?" I just asked Ed for 6 weeks off next summer, and he agreed on the condition that we try to film the journey. "That's crazy, but awesome," Donna exclaims. "But why does he want you to film it?" "He said it would be selfish and irresponsible if we didn't. He said there's too much hope in this not to share it." Then, laughing a little, I add, "He was pretty excited." "Well," she says, taking Olivia back, "you guys have waited long enough to do this. Sounds like you need to call Justin." The next morning, Donna and I place a Skype call to Justin and Kirsten. "Hey, you two." Donna opens the conversation. "How are things going?" "You should see Justin in the cobblestone streets." Kirsten laughs. Justin shakes his head and chuckles. "They're not very forgiving on my wheelchair. The 375 pounds of metal, rubber, plastic, and electronics vibrates so much I feel like dice in a Yahtzee cup." "Are people getting used to seeing a guy in a power wheelchair yet?" I ask. "At least they've finally stopped pointing and chattering in Italian about the crazy guy in the wheelchair," Kirsten says, laughing. "Look at the bright side," I say. "You're definitely challenging their opinions about people with disabilities. You gotta love that." "Yeah," Justin says, smiling. "I do get a kick out of it. So, what's so important that we had to talk today?" Donna gives my hand a gentle squeeze. I steal a quick glance at her and turn my attention back to Justin. "Well," I say, fighting a smile, "when you get back, we need to start planning for Spain." He's clearly taken aback. I'm not sure what he was expecting, but this wasn't it. "What do you mean?" As I tell him about my conversation with Ed, I can almost sense Justin's pulse racing through the Skype feed. By the time I get to the end, the smile on his face is a mile wide. "He has only one condition," I continue. "What's that?" Justin asks. "Do you know anyone who might be interested in capturing this on film?" All right, that's it for chapter 4. Oh my gosh, even I'm feeling the excitement right now as I'm reading this. It's like I can understand why Patrick's boss wants it to be documented. And I'm really appreciative of Patrick's boss, because I like how he's actually took time to listen to Patrick and how he's actually now supporting them in this and wants them to share it with others. And I think if it actually wasn't for Ed, we wouldn't have known about the story. So props to Ed, Patrick's boss, for encouraging them to film it or document it. And I think that's also an important thing for bosses to be like that. I like that there's somebody who was actually willing to listen. I really like that. That part really struck a chord with me. I like that there is a boss, a boss at at a job who was listening to his employee and allowing him to take this special time off for his, allowing Patrick to take time off to do this for his friend, for Justin. So, you really got to give Ed a round of applause there. So, but yeah, see, because I'm getting so excited myself with this. All right, here we go with chapter 5, titled As Ready as We'll Ever Be. So this is back to Justin's perspective now. When we arrive back in the States, Patrick's words are still echoing in my head. Do you know anyone who might be interested in capturing this on film? Amazingly enough, I think I might. Back in college, I knew a guy named Terry Parrish, who is now the co-owner of a video agency in San Diego called Emoda Incorporated. Emoda Incorporated. Documentaries aren't really their thing, but I figure it couldn't hurt to at least ask. So I give Terry a call. And after we get caught up on life, I give him a quick snapshot of what Patrick and I have in mind. Just like Ed, he's hooked immediately. A few days later, I'm sitting across from Terry, his business partner, Chris Karcher? Yeah. Chris Karcher and several other members of the Emoda team in their conference room, telling them about Patrick, our past adventures, the progression of my disease, the Camino, and what we plan to do in the coming months. They are blown away by Patrick's response to my harebrained idea. As the energy builds in the room, the excitement in their voices tells me all I need to know. We've found our film crew, but this is just the beginning, because Patrick lives in Idaho and I live in California. Planning and training for the Camino is going to be a challenge. For years, Patrick and Donna have joked about how we need to move to Idaho. A recent trip up north was no exception. But this time, after 3 weeks with the Grays, both Kirsten and I feel a special stirring in our hearts. Even though winters in Idaho are cold and long, we can't shake the idea of moving. It doesn't make sense. Kirsten is a SoCal girl through and through, and after 20 plus years in San Diego, I have become a convert to life in the sun. But it feels right. So we begin to pray. Several weeks later, the pull toward Idaho has only become stronger. So after talking to our realtor, we Skype with Patrick and Donna. After a few minutes of catching up, Kirsten nervously poses the question, "Are you sure you guys want us to move to Idaho?" "Yes!" they exclaim simultaneously. "Good. I break in because we're putting our house on the market tomorrow." A mere 4 days later, we receive a full price offer, and after several weeks of packing and paperwork, the Skisucks are officially heading to Idaho. Now the real preparations can begin. As we get further into planning for this journey, other challenges begin to present themselves. Our travel expenses alone will be thousands of dollars, not to mention all the equipment we're going to need: backpacks, shoes, rain gear, headlamps, sleeping bags, and some type of off-road wheelchair. Now that we're bringing along a film crew, the costs are mounting. But Patrick and I know we are supposed to do this, so we fight the temptation to get caught up in the how and keep moving forward. Having studied dozens of topographical maps, read the blogs of many previous pilgrims, and watched numerous videos to get a feel for the terrain, we reached the obvious conclusion that a normal manual wheelchair will not be sufficient for this journey. If I'm going to make it from from Saint Jean Pied de Port to Santiago de Compostela. I'm going to need a chair that's lightweight enough to push Patrick, light enough for Patrick to push, yet strong enough to get me through 3 mountain passes and over hundreds of miles of cobblestone streets, rocky paths, gravel roads, and rugged terrain. So, while Patrick starts his physical training, I hit the computer to set up a website to help us raise money for the trip. Using voice-automated software and my pen and tablet, I find that navigating my computer is difficult, but not impossible. I'm grateful for the fingers I can still use. After several hours of working on our website, I take a break to see if I can find a suitable wheelchair. Every morning, Patrick is at the gym before work. Every night, he is either back at the gym or on the road riding his bike. But no matter how much he trains, there is no substitute for pushing a wheelchair for miles and days on end. We have to find something that will work. It isn't long before I realize there are very few options, but soon I think I've discovered what we need. A lightweight, 3-wheeled off-road chair made out of aircraft aluminum, complete with mountain bike tires, disc brakes, and shocks. But it's $8,000. We can't afford this. Late in the evening, Patrick swings by my house after one of his workout sessions to get an update on my progress. "So, how's it coming?" he asks. "Good," I tell him, nodding toward my computer screen. "Want to see our website?" "Yeah, let's check it out." As he leans in to get a closer look, I can see the sweat on his brow and smell the evidence of his hard work. It's only been a few months, and he is already getting lean. On any given day, he is up hours before me, and his head doesn't hit the pillow until well after mine. After mine. Just so you know, I laugh. While you have been at the gym, I've been making it my goal to eat as much as possible. Very funny. He shakes his head and chuckles. "So how much weight have you lost with your new diet?" "Not sure, but all my clothes are fitting much looser." "Nice work. Every pound will make a difference." Turning back to my computer, I say, "Now check this out. I think I might have found a chair." Using the stylus, I click the tab for the off-road chair. "It looks like a 3-wheeled baby jogger on steroids," Patrick says. "Yeah, it does." Patrick puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "You've been busy. You've been eating super healthy. You've lost weight. The website you've been designing is complete. You created a Facebook page to help us raise awareness and hopefully some funds, and you found us a chair." Pointing to the computer screen, he asks, "So how much does this thing cost?" "A lot." It's been several months since Patrick and I started preparing for the Camino. Since the launch of our website and Facebook page, many people have asked how they can help. Tonight, Patrick and I are sitting at the table outside Starbucks across from Josh Kinney, a mutual friend of ours from church. Josh and his wife Kelly are part owners of Bottle Cap Company, Bottle Cap Co., a business specializing in wholesaling bottle caps. And though I couldn't imagine a more unrelated business to sponsor our trip, they are ready to jump in and help make things happen. I know. Yep. Don't worry about that. "What is the one thing you guys need?" Josh asks. Without hesitation, I reply, "A wheelchair." Patrick and I dive into the details about the chair I found, why we think it is the one we need, and the time frame for having it built. When Josh asks how much it costs, I pull no punches. $8,000. Josh sits back in his chair, takes a sip of his coffee, nods his head, and says, Okay, I need to run this by our business partners. Patrick and I thank him for even considering it. $8,000 is a lot to ask. A few days later, my phone rings. Justin, it's Josh. Bottle Cap Co. is all in. After thanking Josh profusely, I call Patrick. Guess what, Patty? We've got our chair. After measurements are taken of my legs, torso, and hips, so the chair can be customized for my body, the countdown begins. The chair will take 5 months to build and is scheduled to arrive in March. With a departure date set for May 29th, Patrick and I have only 2 months to train with it before we leave. I hope it's enough. Patrick has been training on his own for weeks now, riding his bike and lifting weights twice a day, 6 days a week, in an effort to get stronger and increase his endurance. Unfortunately, all he has is a beat-up road bike that's over 40 years old. One night, as I'm putting some finishing touches on our website, my phone rings. It's Patrick calling from work. Great news, he says. We've got another donation. It's not cash, but it might be better. What do you mean? One of my coworkers, Dave, used to ride professionally, and he's got a ton of bikes. So I'm in my office reading through some emails, and Dave pokes his head in my doorway and tells me to come outside. I follow him out to his car, and there is a beautiful blue Bianchi road bike sitting there. I offered to buy it, but he just laughed at me and said, I don't have thousands of dollars to help sponsor you guys, but at least I can give you this. That's awesome. First Josh's company, and now Dave. Not to mention several $1,000s of donations that have come in. Patrick and I are starting to feel a little overwhelmed by so much generosity. Since getting his new bike, Patrick has been riding every chance he gets. Even now that the ground is covered in snow and the weather is much too cold to ride outside, he is keeping the twice-a-day routine going by riding on a trainer in his garage after his kids go to bed. Though he's quickly approaching the best shape of his life, we both know that until the chair arrives, we can't really know how ready he is. While Patrick trains, I'm hard at work raising funds, generating buzz for the trip on social media, and filling in the gaps with a few design jobs to help pay the bills. Thanks to the limited mobility of my hands, everything I do on my computer takes much longer than it used to. But with everything Patrick is doing, I'm determined to keep at it. We catch a huge break when a friend suggests we create a gift registry at REI and post the link on our Facebook page. The response is overwhelming. In a matter of weeks, all the equipment Patrick and I need is sitting in his garage. Everything, that is, except my wheelchair. Then, on a warm March afternoon, Patrick calls. Hey skis, Josh just pulled into my driveway with a large crate in the bed of his truck. Kirsten, the kids, and I immediately head over to the Grays. As we roll into Patrick's driveway, he and Josh are tearing the crate apart. Patrick is so excited, he reminds me of the dad in A Christmas Story. when his prized leg lamp finally arrives. Drills are whirring, packing peanuts are flying through the air, and screws are falling everywhere. Once all the pieces are out of the crate, Patrick attaches the quick-release wheels to the body and adjusts the handlebars at the back of the chair to accommodate his height. "Ready to go for a ride?" he asks. I nod my head and smile. I have never been more ready. I park my power wheelchair to the left of the off-road chair. Bending at the knees, Patrick slightly straddles my legs, slides his arms underneath mine, bear hugs me, picks me up, rotates, and then sets me down on the padded seat of my new chariot. Little do we know, this is the first of hundreds of transfers that will take place over the course of the next 3.5 months. All 6 kids are eager to see this thing in action, so we take a stroll around the park across the street from the Gray's house. Each roll of the wheels feels exciting, and the sound of Patrick's footfalls behind me makes everything about this journey feel a little more real. Finally, we are ready to begin training together. It feels good to me. It feels good to be moving as a unit. Like a couple of kids at Christmas, we are so giddy we take another lap. "You know," Patrick says, "this will be the first time you've let someone else control everything." He's right. In my power wheelchair, I can determine when and where I go. I hadn't thought about this until now. "Yeah," I say with a smile. "In this chair, I'm completely at your mercy, though I intend it as a joke." Although I intend it as a joke, Patrick takes it to heart. That's a remarkable amount of trust to place in someone. I'm glad you've chosen me. For the past 6 weeks, I've been with Patrick during his workouts. Though I have no control over where we go or how fast we get there, I am experiencing roads and trails that I'm not able to get to in my power chair. By giving up my freedom, I am gaining more of it, and I am finally beginning to appreciate what this trip is going to require from both of us. We've increased both the distance and the difficulty of the terrain we choose to tackle, with Patrick pushing me through the foothills of nearby Eagle, Idaho, where glades are as steep as 18%, which means an average rise of 18 feet of elevation for every 100 feet of distance. The climbs are brutal on his legs, but each step brings new strength to his body and to both our wills. Patrick's relentless dedication to preparing his body to help me realize this dream is a powerful motivator for me. Though I can do little to prepare physically, I have continued to generate buzz via our Facebook page and website, trying to engage as many supporters as we can. Every day while we train, new donations come in to sponsor our trip. Whether $5 or $5,000, the question of cost are slowly being answered. But what about the physical? Patrick has been training like a beast, but pushing me around the backcountry hills of Idaho is one thing. Propelling 250 pounds of dead weight over and across the Pyrenees is something else. A number of people have offered to join us for the entire journey, but feeling cautious about who we would be spending so much time with, we've said, no thank you. But when Ted Hardy asks how we can help, it feels different. He's a good friend and a firefighter. Patrick has known him for years and has traveled with him on several occasions. Ted is a few years younger than we are, and he shares our zest for life and adventure. He thinks like us, has a similar sense of humor, and is as humble as they come. So when he approached us and said, I feel like I'm supposed to help out in some way. We invited him to discuss it over dinner. We need help getting over the Pyrenees, Patrick tells him. If you come along, how long would you be able to stay? I ask. I don't know, maybe 10 days? Patrick and I exchange a quick glance. And then he says what we're both thinking. You're coming to Spain. With only a few weeks left before our departure, our training sessions are now up to 12 miles at a time, and Ted has joined us to get a feel for what he signed up for. On today's practice run, Patrick and Ted take turns pushing and pulling me up and down the steepest grades we can find. The process is simple, yet grueling. Whoever is pushing is harnessed in behind me, while the other guy is out front, pulling on a long red nylon strap attached to the sides of my elevated footrest by carabiners. The whole setup resembles an ox pulling a plow, with the farmer pushing from behind. The climbs are still difficult, but it is remarkable how much strain is alleviated by having another body to help. 10 days before departure, we agree to train very little. Patrick, Ted, and I need to rest, but not before we tackle Quail Ridge, the final piece in our preparation puzzle. Quail Ridge is the steepest grade we can find. Kirsten Armstrong, a local 3-time Olympic gold medalist in the women's individual time trial in cycling, trains on this ascent, and more than a few local vehicles have had difficulties chugging up the steep road. With sections as steep as 25%, it's the only hill that will come close to what we will face in the Pyrenees. If we can climb Quail Ridge, we're as ready as we'll ever be. While Patrick transfers me from my power chair to my off-road chair and wraps our makeshift harness around his waist, Ted grabs the reins in front. Slowly, step by step, we begin the ascent. The concrete below us is a poor substitute for the trail we will face, but the grade is still punishing. The climb is a little over a mile, and only a quarter mile in, Patrick and Ted are both hurting. This is much more difficult than the hill from a few days ago, Patrick wheezes. And we haven't even hit the steepest section yet. While Patrick and Ted push and pull the chair forward, I lean from side to side to counter the slopes of driveways, and I can already feel some fatigue in my core muscles. As the road bends left and right, Patrick has to put so much leverage into pushing that his arms and face are nearly parallel to the ground, and he has to rely on Ted and me to tell him where to go. Sensing that Patrick could use a break, Ted shouts out from the front, "Let's switch!" Patrick locks the brakes, but because the hill is so steep, he refuses to move until Ted has unharnessed himself and made his way to the back of the chair. As Patrick moves to the side and allows Ted to grab the handles and lean his body into the chair, I feel myself inch backward more before Ted puts even more of his weight into it. We all exchange knowing glances. What are we getting ourselves into? As Patrick wraps the waist harness around Ted, and secures him to my wheelchair, Ted smiles and says, half jokingly, "If Justin gets away from us, at least he'll have an anchor to slow him down." We all laugh, but we're a little nervous at the prospect of the chair cascading down the hill with me in it and one of them skipping behind me like a rock across a pond. Suppressing our nerves, we continue the climb. After a few hundred feet, Ted shouts, "It feels like I'm walking in wet concrete." "I know," Patrick yells back. "My shoes feel heavier with every step." Ignoring the burning in their thighs, calves, and lungs, they keep moving me forward. After a grueling hour and 15 minutes, we finally reach the top and take a moment to rest. Ted is on a tight timeline and has just a few minutes left before he has to get back to work. So as soon as he and Patrick catch their breath, we begin the descent. This time, Patrick is pulling back on the handlebars as a counterweight to my wheelchair, and Ted is strapped in 8 feet behind him, pulling back on the red nylon harnesses, which is now attached to the back of the wheelchair. The hill is so steep, the chair wants to lurch forward with every step. With both guys now behind me, I'm staring straight downhill, hoping the straps and carabiners are secure enough to hold me. After we pass the steepest section, Ted says the words we've been dreading. "Sorry guys, but I gotta get back to the station." Unharnessing himself, he turns to Patrick and before dashing off to his car, says, "Don't worry, you've got this." The combination of fatigue and the steep grade are giving Patrick's body a taste of what the Camino will be like when we're on our own. It takes everything he has to complete the last quarter mile as he leans back, taking short steps to prevent the chair from gaining any momentum. As he bears the full weight of the load, straining to keep the chair from lurching down the hill, I begin to feel the magnitude of what I'm asking of my friend. What are we doing? What if this is too much? With the bottom of the hill in sight, I shout out a few words of encouragement. "Nice work! You've got this!" When we get to the bottom, Patrick staggers to the van to get my power chair. When he transfers me from one chair to the other, I can feel the moisture from his saturated shirt. He is completely soaked and looks exhausted. "So, what do you think?" I ask him. "Are we ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be." And that's it for chapter 5. So yeah, they're really getting prepared, and I'm loving that. There's times where they feel like they're like wondering, is it worth it all? But they're persevering. They're gonna stick with their goal. They're gonna make Justin's dream come true. So I love it. I love the dedication. I really love all the generosity being shown by so many other people. That I like that there's so many people who support the dream, and that's what humanity is about. That's really what humanity is about. It's like people coming together to help each other. That's what we need in the world right now. In 2025, we need that in the world more than ever, in my opinion. And it shouldn't even be an opinion. It should be a fact there. All right, here we go with the last chapter of part 2, preparations. Here's chapter 6, called Departure. And this is back to Patrick now. A year of preparation has led us to this moment. I have never been away from my wife and kids for more than a week, but now I'm going to be gone for a month and a half. Though I'm excited, I'm also anxious about leaving Donna and the kids behind. Our one-stop flight from Boise to Paris is due to leave in an hour, and Justin and I are looking at nearly 6 weeks before we meet up with our wives in Santiago de Compostela. It seems like an eternity from now. Surrounded by our families, we sense the uneasiness in our wives, children, and parents. We pause for a moment of prayer for traveling mercies safety, and wisdom. Many hugs are exchanged before we begin to work our way toward the security gate. After saying goodbye to my parents, I hug Kirsten and the Ski-Suck kids, while my family hugs Justin. "I'll take care of him," I hear Justin say to Donna. "I'll keep him safe." "I know you will," she says with a smile. As we approach security, all three of my kids are in tears. But Cambria is crying the hardest. I bend down so our foreheads touch and place my hands gently on the sides of her face. "I love you so much." "Please don't go," she chokes out between sobs. "I'll be back in 6 weeks," I reassure her. "We'll Skype, and you can follow the updates on Facebook." "But I don't want you to go," she whispers as I hug her again. "I know," I tell her as tears fill my eyes. The rest of my family joins us, and we become one mass of emotion. Donna chokes out a final goodbye, followed by, "I love you so much." "I love you too." Nearby, Justin's older brother Ryan stands at his side, tears of pride and joy streaming down his face. The Ski-Suck children then hug Justin again. Lauren's face is wet, and Kirsten wipes tears from her eyes as she gives Justin one final kiss. As we work our way through security, Justin's 3-wheeled baby jogger on steroids draws plenty of stares. Earlier at the ticket counter, a young woman had said, "That's quite the wheelchair. What are you guys planning on doing in Paris?" When we told her, she just stared at us, mouth open. Now the TSA agent says, "I've never seen one like this," pointing at Justin's chair. "What are you planning on doing? Climbing a mountain?" "Kind of," Justin replies, smiling. The TSA agent tilts his head forward and raises his eyebrows. "Seriously?" At the gate, a bright, peppy attendant puts a tag on Justin's chair so we can check it. "Why do you need a chair like this for Paris?" she asks. When we tell her, her eyes pop open like a deer in the headlights. "Holy," she begins before catching herself. You think they'd never heard of anyone hiking 500 miles through mountains in a wheelchair. Justin's kids as we head toward the jetway. At the door of the plane, I transfer Justin into a waiting aisle chair, a small skinny wheelchair used to assist those who have difficulty getting on and off planes. Once he is strapped into the aisle chair, I pull the quick release pins to collapse the handlebars of the off-road chair and shorten the leg rest. After the process is complete, the chair is a good foot shorter, both in length and height. The ground crew takes the chair for storage. While I grab Justin's seat cushion and join him on the plane. After putting our backpacks and Justin's cushion into the overhead compartments, I lift Justin to transfer him to his seat. In smaller planes like this one, I have to be careful so I don't hit my head. The narrow aisle and minimal space between the rows of seats mean I also have to be incredibly mindful of my feet and body while I lift him. The whole boarding process from start to finish takes about 10 minutes. A few hours later, we land in San Francisco for our layover, and I reverse the process. After unloading our luggage and waiting for the aisle chair, I transfer Justin, wheel him off the plane, secure the leg rests and handlebars on the off-road chair, transfer Justin again, and wait for the next plane. Then I push him down the jetway and repeat the entire process. It's not until we're on the plane to Paris that I can finally relax a little bit. Justin and I had traveled together so much that most of this has become automatic. Still, because of all the moving pieces, I'm always a little nervous until we're settled on the plane to our final destination. The more connecting flights we have, the greater the likelihood that something on his chair will get broken or that something will accidentally be left behind. The 11-hour flight to Paris offers plenty of time to rest. We listen to music, watch a movie, and try to sleep. But sleep eludes us. There's so much excitement and anticipation. We're actually doing this, Justin says. I know. It's kind of hard to believe. He pauses for a second, then asks, "How are you feeling?" "Scared, worried." Actually, I'm not sure what I'm feeling. After I put Justin's headphones over his ears and help him find a movie to watch, I turn to the screen on the back seat in front of me. I'm scrolling through the many options, but the titles don't even register. My mind is still in the Boise airport. The first time I ever laid eyes on Donna was my very first day at Northwest Nazarene College. She was playing a game as a part of a freshman orientation, and when we made eye contact, she smiled so big the corners of her eyes curled up. It was the first time I had ever seen someone's eyes smile. A few days later, I asked her out. Much of our first date was spent sitting on a bench in front of the campus library. "So, what are you planning to study?" I asked. "I'm going to be a teacher." "Really?" I said, inching a little closer to her. Both my parents are teachers. What makes you want to do that?" She shook her head and said, "I don't know. I just always known it's what I'm supposed to do." "How about you?" "I'm looking at a degree in biology, but I really don't know yet." We continued to talk for hours, and when I walked her back to her dorm, I reached for her hand just as she reached for mine. When I kissed her goodnight, I opened my eyes to find her looking right at me, her eyes smiling the same way they had a few days before. I fell fast and hard. Donna and I dated throughout college, and our courtship led to the obvious question. I had planned it out perfectly. After a day spent hiking in the Wallowa Mountains, we were headed back down the trail. I knelt down on one knee in the middle of a small footbridge. The gaps in the boards were an inch wide, and I could see the rushing water of the river below. As I proposed, all I could think was, "Don't drop the rain, don't drop the rain." Thankfully, I didn't, and she said yes. The wedding was set for June 28th, 1997. Naturally, Justin was my best man. Surrounded by family and friends, we married, and I remember her feeling overjoyed while also thinking, "Don't screw this up." After honeymooning on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Donna and I settled in the Seattle area to begin our life together. When my biology degree proved less than marketable, we moved to Vancouver, Washington, and I went to work loading freight onto trucks, while Donna looked for a job that would utilize her degree in elementary education. Donna subbed for a year before I decided it was time for me to return to college. We moved back to Idaho, and I enrolled at Northwest Nazarene again to pursue a degree in secondary education, while Donna found a teaching job. After graduating with a second bachelor's degree, I taught high school for a few years, but it wasn't a good fit. So I went back to school for a third round, this time to get a nursing degree. After graduating, I worked at the bedside for several years, the majority of which were spent in orthopedics. Eventually, I was asked to apply for a position at an area hospital to manage their spine program. Always up for a challenge, I applied, got the job, and began navigating the task of keeping both the hospital and the surgeons I worked for happy. I tracked patient outcomes, dealt with physician and patient complaints, researched best practices, developed financial projections for new clinics, and expanded the program. For years, 2 promotions and countless 70-hour weeks later, I'm overworked, overstressed, disengaged from my wife and kids, and now I'm flying across the ocean and leaving them all for 6 weeks. What am I doing? After 3 more movies, a couple of meals, and hours of music, I feel my eyelids finally beginning to droop, just as the wheels touch the runway in Paris. Our film crew, Terry from Emoda and Mike, who joined the ranks 2 weeks ago, are on the same flight. Once we're all off the plane, the 4 of us make our way to the railway station to catch a train to the city of Bayonne, in the southwest corner of France. There, we'll spend a few days resting and acclimating to a new schedule before we begin our pilgrimage. Once our tickets are squared away, we work with the information desk to ensure that a lift or ramp is available so Justin can get on the train. After multiple assurances that everything has been taken care of, we sit and wait. The train platforms are 1 level below us, so we find a bench where I can sit next to Justin and rest. As the time nears for our train to arrive, we hustle to the elevator with one backpack on Justin's chair and mine on my back. The elevator takes forever to descend to the platform level, and when the bell finally dings to announce our arrival, our train is already in the station. "Where's the ramp?" I ask, searching the area. "I don't know," says Justin. "There's no lift either." With less than a minute until departure, Terry and Mike load their gear onto the train and board while I frantically look for someone to help us. Seconds later, the doors close and the train pulls away, taking Mike and Terry with it. Standing on the platform, all I can do is wave goodbye. "Well, that sucks," I exclaim, shaking my head and laughing. Justin just smiles and says, "Let's head back upstairs, see if we can figure something out." Back at the information desk, we explain our plight, and one of the clerks takes it upon herself to become our personal advocate. She transfers our tickets to the next and last train to Bayonne and assures us that she will personally make all of the necessary arrangements for accessibility. Once again, we sit and wait. When we ride the painfully slow elevator back down to the platform, the help we need is available. Minutes later, we are on the train to Bayonne. Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Our cabin is surprisingly empty. With brakes locked and wheelchair secured, I plop onto a seat across from Justin as he leans back in his wheelchair. "How long till we get to Bayonne?" Justin asks, stifling a yawn. "About 6 hours. Well, it's definitely been an interesting first day," he jokes. "I have to admit, the whole situation seems surreal. Just the 2 of us in a foreign country with only a wheelchair and 2 backpacks. Normally, Justin travels with a bedside commode, a shower chair, and a number of other medical supplies. But given that we have to carry everything with us on the Camino, we decided to do it bare bones. So we've brought only the essentials. Together, our backpacks weigh about 30 pounds. Each one contains a sleeping bag, 3 pairs of antimicrobial underwear, 3 pairs of socks, 1 pair of shorts, one pair of pants that convert into shorts, 2 t-shirts, 2 long sleeve shirts, a jacket, a stocking cap, and a rain parka. We also have flip-flops, the shoes on our feet, our guidebooks, headlamps, a small toolkit for the wheelchair, insulated chaps for Justin's legs, and a collapsible urinal. Shortly after making the decision to scale back on our equipment, we had notified Chris and Terry on a video call to Emoda. They were excited at the prospect of a more challenging journey, but they also told us that funding for the documentary was looking grim. Short of our financial target, Terry and Chris asked if we could delay the journey for a year. No, I said, shaking my head empathetically. We have no guarantee how much time Justin has. We are going this year with or without a film crew. After the call ended, I looked at Justin and said, I hope I didn't speak out of turn there. You didn't, he assured me. How much time do you think I have? How much time do you think you have? I asked, not really wanting to hear the answer. Justin just sighed and said, I have no idea, but I don't see this happening if I get any worse. I am going to get worse. It's just a question of when. Mortality has a way of changing your perspective. That's something we both came to grips with well before Justin's health started to decline. When we were in grade school, my mom became ill during a camping trip. At first, the illness presented much like a stomach bug: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and extreme fatigue. But one night something changed, and my dad rushed her to the hospital. The doctors diagnosed her with toxic shock syndrome, a severe bacterial infection that had invaded her body and quickly escalated to a life-threatening level. They told my father that if he had waited much longer to take her to the hospital, she would have died that night in bed. We'll never forget seeing her in the hospital bed with an IV in each arm, looking so drawn and fragile. The doctors were so concerned about her dehydration that the IV fluids flowed more than they dripped. Mom spent 3 days in the ICU and 8 more in the medical unit before she was finally able to come home. For years afterward, I was frightened by how close my mother had come to death, to the point where my fear of losing her bordered on paranoia. I remember one day I came home from school and our car was in the driveway, but there was no one in the house. I became hysterical before finding her in the backyard pulling weeds. With time, though, my fear helped shape a new perspective. Almost losing my mom taught me that life is short and time is precious. We need to make the most of what we have. A few years later, Justin's mother was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. Fortunately, chemotherapy and a mastectomy saved her life. But like me, Justin quickly learned not to take a single moment for granted. After watching our mothers face death, and now seeing my best friend doing the same, we've begun to wonder, what if I died right now? Would I wish I had lived my life differently? Or would I be proud of where I am when my light burns out? As midnight draws near and the train finally approaches Bayonne, Justin and I are on the verge of delirium. We haven't slept for 35 hours. We find Terry and Mike waiting for us at the section, and together we stagger a mile through the darkened streets to our hotel. I'm beyond exhausted, and Justin is desperate for any semblance of a bed. After checking in, we make our way to the elevator that will take us up to the 4th floor, only to discover that it is just 3 feet wide by 3 feet deep. After transferring Justin onto a bench in the hotel lobby, I try to break down the chair to make it fit, but it quickly becomes clear that there is no way we are getting to get into the elevator. Spent and defeated, I sit down next to Justin. Just across from us, the girl at the counter, who has been watching the drama unfold, begins to apologize about the situation. I'm so tired I can barely follow her French. As she's talking, Justin looks past her and sees an office chair on wheels. "Can we use your office chair?" he asks. "Oi?" she says graciously. I retrieve the makeshift wheelchair and position it beside the bench where Justin is sitting. I can see the exhaustion in his eyes, and I'm running on empty myself. With shoulders slouched and moving almost in slow motion, I find the strength to pick up Justin and set him down on the office chair. We lock his off-road wheelchair in a room on the main floor and get into the elevator. One of those old ones with a gate you close after entering. Because Justin can't use his hands, I have to ride with him. 9 square feet doesn't leave much room for 2 full-grown men, 2 backpacks, and an office chair. As I back Justin into the elevator and squeeze in next to him, I realize that his face is right at my belt level. After 36 sleepless hours on the road, neither of us is the epitome of great personal hygiene, but he definitely drew the short straw. "Dude, you stink," he says, crinkling his nose. "Yeah, I know," I concede. "I can smell me too." After what feels like an eternity, the elevator squeaks and grinds its way to the 4th floor, and we get out. As I pull Justin out into the hall, the chair wheels catch on the thick carpet, which is buckled from years of use. As the chair spins, Justin starts to teeter, and I have to grab his shoulders to keep him from falling onto the floor. Naturally, our room is the next to last room down the hall and around the corner from the elevator. Slowly and carefully, I push and pull the office chair down to the hall. At times, I'm facing Justin and can't see where we're going, so he has to look back over his shoulder to give me directions. We finally make it to the corner and turn left. 30 more feet and a few more close calls caused by wrinkles in the carpet, and we are finally at our door. Bleary-eyed, I fumble for the key and open our room. As the hinges squeak and the door swings open, we are greeted by a 6-inch step immediately inside the door. "A step? Really?" Justin says. We both hang our heads and begin to laugh, and the volume soon grows, fueled by a lack of sleep and a little anger. "Shh, you're going to wake the neighbors," Justin says to me through tears. I'm going to wake the neighbors? Anxious to bring this day to a close, I grab the desk chair from the corner of the room and set it next to the step. I then back Justin into the entryway until he is as close as possible to the step, and for the 12th time since we left Boise, I transfer him from one chair to another. As I drag the desk chair over to the edge of the bed, the legs catch against the carpet. "Okay, end of the line," I say. Reaching over Justin, I pull back the covers and then lift him into bed. "Good night, Skis." "Good night, Patty." My mind and body are beyond exhaustion. I have never transferred Justin this much in such a short period of time. My shoulders and back throb with deep aching pain, and my head feels like it weighs 100 pounds. After calling my wife to let her know we made it, all I want to do is sleep. But my soul feels different. Sitting on the edge of the bed, listening to Justin's deep, slow breathing, I can't help but appreciate his willingness to be here, his desire to take life by the horns and truly live. lying in bed, eyes staring toward a ceiling hidden by darkness. I am amazed how Justin faces life lived in a wheelchair. In spite of having more physical challenges than anyone I know, he has lived more than most. Nothing seems to hold him back. So what's holding me back? What's keeping me from living life the same way? And that concludes part 2 of preparations, and that's also chapter 6. So man, this is quite a big journey, and I'm still just really loving the perseverance here. I cannot wait to get into, and the rest of the book is all part 3, so I'm gonna have to do separate videos on this one, because wow, this has been over an hour with reading just that second part of preparation. So at the risk of running out of storage space on my phone, sorry, but I really hope you guys are really loving the story here, and I'm excited to see where this all goes. I think it is really a great, inspiring story of hope, perseverance, friendship, all of that. And it's really, I think, what the world needs, but also all buildings need to be more accustomed to people in wheelchairs also. I have to say that as well. I want to be able to put that into this video too. Buildings need to be accessible to everybody, especially people in wheelchairs. I think that really shows importance there too. But still, just so far, just such a really good, powerful story. And I cannot wait to see where this goes. All right, so thank you, Rappies, very much. Hope you guys have really enjoyed this Ryan Zay reading. This has been quite a Ryan Zay reading, I feel. And stay tuned as we go into the third and final part, Camino de Santiago. And there we'll be starting with chapter 7, I Wonder If. All right. Thank you, Rappies, very much again. Love you all very much. God bless, and I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.